Welcome to the first edition of Patrolling for Recruits. I will be your host, Detective Sergeant Chris Hagland. Today we are going to be talking about the Holland Department of Public Safety and giving recruits a general overview of the Holland Department of Public Safety. And I have the honor of speaking with an officer that has been here since 1991. So yes, he brings a lot of experience. He started as a patrol officer. He was a member of the tactical team. He was a drug investigations officer and supervisor. He was an FTO sergeant. He was a detective sergeant. He was the captain of the detective bureau. And since 2009, he has been the chief of police. We'd like to welcome Chief Matt Messer.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about the police department, and we are speaking and hoping that there's recruits out here that are interested in the Holland Department of Public Safety. Could you just give us a general overview of the department?
Absolutely. Appreciate being here. Just a little overview of our department. We have 59 sworn police officers. We have one jailer. We do have our own jail, which is pretty unique. We consist of 3 divisions: a patrol division, investigative division, and services division. We have a community policing sergeant and several officers, including our school resource officers. We have our own evidence technicians. They're certified police officers. We have a traffic division consisting of a traffic sergeant and officers. We have 4 canine teams. We have a training division, which is a training sergeant and several training officers. We also have an undercover drug team, sergeant and officers. We're assigned to the Michigan State Police. We have our own tactical team, hostage negotiation team, and our investigative division is consistent of a couple sergeants, a captain, and several detectives. So we have a lot of diversity, a lot of opportunities if you come to work for us.
How do you manage that many different types of units within your organization? Do you oversee all those, or are specific sergeants responsible for those units?
Well, I wish I could say I managed all of them, but I don't. I think the core of our department is really with our middle leadership. We have 3 captains that oversee each one of those divisions, and we have several sergeants, several patrol sergeants, and like I mentioned, traffic sergeant. We have a WEMET sergeant, which is our undercover drug team, and really they're the core of our leadership. The middle management oversees all of those teams. I only oversee really our 3 captains, also a 4th captain, which is a fire captain. But really a lot of leadership in the field is taken on by those sergeant level positions.
And in your eyes, what makes the Holland Department of Public Safety different from some of the other agencies in Michigan and in other states?
Sure. I'm on the state chiefs board. There's 12 of us from 12 different regions, so I do get across the state. I spend a lot of time in the Lansing area. We have our meetings across the state, so I do see a lot of different departments, and I think what makes us stand out really is our culture, our core values. We've had them in place for several years. Those are employee-generated core values. And everyone that comes to our organization, I do sit down with them, every new employee. We go over our core values, and I push out the importance of those core values. So I really think that's the foundation for our culture. I also think our hiring requirements and our background process. A lot of people don't understand that we do have a very, very thorough background investigation on every new officer. So we try to hire only the best. We're very selective. They need to fit in with our culture. There may be great officers out there that may fit into other cultures at other departments, whether they're larger or smaller, but they need to fit our culture. They don't fit our culture and how we operate. We do not hire them. Also, our initial field training process, very thorough again. Ongoing training we have, I think is very, very important. And I think we're kind of the perfect size department. We're large enough to have a lot of specialty teams, as you've already heard. We're very busy, but we're also small enough to have that family environment and promote great teamwork. So I think that all of those combined make us a great place to work.
Chief, you mentioned something about core values. Can you just explain to the recruits what our 5 core values are?
Sure, these are employee-generated core values, and they are integrity, respect, professionalism, dedication, and compassion.
And in those core values, you talk about the continuous pursuit of excellence. And one of the things, having worked for you now for 20 years, that's one thing that I've always admired about your leadership is that you're constantly pushing new officers, new sergeants, new captains to make themselves better, whether that's within the unit that they're in or whether that's just personal growth for themselves. Can you talk about what you provide for your officers, sergeants, and captains, and how you continue to pursue that excellence?
Sure, I think it all starts at the top. I think you lead by example. I think myself and our command unit, which consists of our captains, we have to lead by example. We on duty and off duty. It starts with us. We have conversations about that all the time. And I'm going to say something I'm sure you've heard many times, and I'm sure all of our employees have heard many, many times, is every interaction counts. Every interaction you have with the community, every interaction you have with fellow employees, fellow team members, it always counts. So make it count. Make sure that's a good interaction as best as you can make it. And our core values are there, like I said, for our foundation, and it's who we are, and it's what we stand for, and that's very, very important. And I tell everybody this: if you're not going to live within our core values is within a wheel, and if you're not going to have one of those core values, it's going to be a bumpy ride for you because you're missing out on one of those core values. You're going to have a flat spot in your wheel, and when you get a flat spot in your wheel, you're most likely not going to be working for us anymore because it's going to be a continuous bumpy ride. And I'll be the first to tell all our new employees and any employees, if you're not working within our core values and our policies, you won't be working for us and you won't be employed with us. So it starts with that and ends with that.
And can you talk about some of the things that you offer your employees? Specifically, I'm just thinking of brain health and the training that we go through. What do you do to take care of your officers that maybe not every police department is doing?
Well, I think it's all starts with that culture and that family feeling. When they step in the door, they feel like they're part of the family. They feel like they're part of the team. You have to provide that kind of environment for them, combined with a continuous quality training, quality equipment. You have to have that in place, and other things like this, the brain health. We have a Robertson Brain Health from Grand Rapids Brain Institute came on board in 2018, I think it was. They do a brain assessment on all of our employees. They try to improve performance through brain enhancement and those kind of things like that. We have a peer support group. We debrief on some of these. I know when I worked the road, we were never good at what you saw is what you saw. You suck it up and move it on. Move on. Now it's a lot different than that. You see a lot of things in this profession. You see a lot of death. You see a lot of destruction. You see a lot of tragedy, so you really have to debrief those kind of things, bring in people like Brain Health, Pine Rest, the Employee Assistance Program to kind of debrief these situations, talk them over, and I think that's very, very important. You just can't continue to, it's like a backpack. You can't continue just to fill it with all this tragedy and all this negativity. Pretty soon the backstrap, it's going to break, and it's going to wear you down. You have to talk about these things, and I think we've been doing a very good job of that, much better than we have in the past.
Once again, I'm here with Chief Messer of the Holland Department of Public Safety for the first edition of Patrolling for Recruits. And you hit on it a little bit, but can you talk about the relationship between the community, the police department, and then the city leadership, and how that all works together to have the type of police department that I believe and you believe that we have over here in Holland?
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the most important aspects of my job. This is my primary duty, is to make sure we have quality relationships between the police department, city leadership, and also the community. And part of that city leadership involves elected officials as well. I hear across the state that may not exist in all communities, especially now. I think without those four components, the community, the city leadership, city council, and the police department, if you miss out on one of those, you're not going to have a quality organization if you don't have trust between those four. I guess I look at it like a four-legged stool, right? If you don't have one of those legs, the stool's going to fall down. So you really have to have trust between all four of those entities. And trust is earned. We try to earn that every day. We talk about every interaction counts. I bring it up again. You have to have that mutual trust. You have to have that mutual respect. You have to have compassion for our community. And we try to do everything that we do. We earn that trust, and I think we've been pretty successful at that. And just want to say thank you to the city leadership. Thank you for elected officials. Also, thank you for the community, because without you, we couldn't exist. We work well with the community. They interact with us well. I think they trust us. And without that, it's very, very difficult to have a quality police department. We have to really respect each other and work with each other, and we do that here.
Changing gears, can you explain just the process? We just recently got the new simulator for training. I wouldn't say a lot of police departments probably have a simulator to that degree. Can you explain to the audience what the city leadership does in that process to allow us to get this type of equipment? And I know there's a lot of other equipment that you give us as police officers, but in this specific instance, can you explain how that relationship is key to getting your officers the necessary equipment to be able to train and then to be able to take that experience into the community?
Absolutely. It starts with that trust, like I talked about. They have to trust us that we're using what they give us effectively and appropriately. And it really comes down to the budget process. City management has to approve the budget and all these pieces of equipment, and City Council has to vote that budget in. And that budget includes the simulator for training. It includes all of our cruisers. It includes mobile command units. It includes all of those pieces of equipment. And without that trust, without those relationships, we may not see that equipment. But that goes to why we have good officers here, why we have this family environment. So it's really this kind of this cycle. You have to have it all in place. And if you do, which we do here, it just everything feeds off each other. Everyone works together. We get the equipment we need. We get the officers we need. And I'm just very, very thankful to work here in Holland.
So, in talking to the recruits that are listening to this, are you telling them that every city, their leadership and their budget, our budget is not the same as, say, Grand Rapids or the same as Benton Harbor? Is everybody's budget and leadership different?
Oh, I think absolutely it is. I think it certainly the budget is, because it's going to be based on the number of officers, the size of the city, those kind of things. So the dollar amount is going to always be different. It's just what percentage of the budget do you have, and what percentage of the budget does that equate to the number of officers you have? How much money do you have to spend on each individual officer? So that's very, very important, and I think we do very well here. People want to come work for us. We've been pretty successful because of everything we're talking about right now. We've had officers come from other agencies all across the Midwest and Florida and all around to say they want to work for us because they feel like they are trusted here. They have the support that they need that they may have not felt that they had with other cities.
Once again, I'm here with Chief Messer, and we're going to shift gears just a little bit and ask you a little more personal questions about your career. Since you've been in what we were looking at is a 1991. I think we have some officers that weren't even born then now. So
we do.
So
yes.
that what that means is you should have a lot of wisdom. So let me ask you this. In your years of experience, what has changed the most in law enforcement?
Well, there's been a lot that has changed. There's no question about that. The first thing that comes to mind to me is the technology. When I very first started, believe it or not, we didn't have computers in our cruisers, and you don't know what that's like to not have a computer in your cruiser. All we had, my first cruiser was a radio. Did not have an MCT, mobile computer terminal. Did not have that. We obviously have those now. Body cameras. Those weren't even. We didn't even have. Well, I am really dating myself, but we didn't have cell phones then. So I mean,
How'd you
something that
communicate?
simple. Well, radio, and we actually had pagers back then. Those little things that you put on your belt that go off, and then you have to go find a phone somewhere. And there were these things called pay phones back then that you could actually pull up.
I remember those.
Remember those? Yeah. So you have to have a few quarters in your pocket. But so things have obviously changed since then when it comes to cell phones and computers within our cruisers, even on our desks. I started. We didn't have email. We have email. That was not existent then. So, but beyond that, the body cameras, DNA evidence, that was just coming into existence back then. So there's been so many things that have changed since I've started. And I heard that from people when I started in 91. They're telling me how it was in 1971. So things just continue to, I think, improve. We're getting more technology, more advancements, and it's good for us.
I agree 100%. Last question for you, and this is probably one of the most important questions, I believe, is what would you tell a potential recruit that is maybe 2 years away from applying for their police academy? What would you tell them to put themselves in the best position to obtain a job?
First, I'd say go get a 4-year degree. We highly recommend that. We prefer that. Most of our officers have at least a 4-year degree. I'd say try to get into some kind of cadet program, which we do have at our department. We have 8 positions for people to come in and get experience as a cadet, or an internship, something to get you some kind of experience in law enforcement. Number one, so you have that experience coming in. Number two, is to make sure that is what you want to do. Because sometimes we have people come in as cadets, and it's good because they find out is this their calling or isn't it? And if it's not, that's good too. That's fine. That's great. They figure that out and they can go find a job where they feel where they want to be instead of in law enforcement, which is great. I think the biggest thing is to make sure you have communication and interpersonal skills. You have to communicate with everyone. You name it. You're talking to business owners. You're talking to everyone. You're going to interact with every type of individual when you come work for anywhere as a police officer, and also to really learn about and understand emotional intelligence, understands self-control, self-assessment. Also be adaptable to different situations and be able to multitask. That's how a lot of our officers do not make it through field training, because they cannot do 2 or 3 or 4 things at the same time and also and continue to have officer safety in mind. So I think those are, and there's 20 other things I could bring up, but I think those are where you need to start.
And that multitasking you talk about, that's huge in our profession. In the cadet program, they'll experience that. Can you just describe, maybe as a cadet, some of the situations that you're talking about, being able to multitask, so that way when you do hit field training, you're able to do that? What are some of the things that our cadets do?
Our cadet program, they have access to our entire department. They answer phones. They interact with people coming into the lobby. They are involved with what's called LEAN, Law Enforcement Information Network, so they enter data into that. They can go out and ride with officers. I think that's very, very important to get an eye on what goes out into the field. They're involved with training. They may be role players in training. They can view training. They access to our range. They really have the ability to interact with our officers. I think that's most important. They also are on the radio. They do workups and provide information for officers upon request. They take out warrant information. It's just a great, great opportunity to get an experience. Maybe not exactly what it's going to be. A police officer is going to be different when you sit behind the wheel of the cruiser versus when you're in the passenger seat. There is a difference, but you do get a kind of an understanding on what it's like to be a police officer, and that's very, very important.
Well, thank you very much, Chief. We really appreciate it. I can tell you, having worked for you, appreciate your leadership and helping me be not only a better officer, but a better person, better father. And I can speak to the recruits out there that you are what you say. You're always there for us. And I just appreciate you coming in today for the first edition of Patrolling for Recruits. And we thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
We'll be signing off 10:42.